Hello everybody. So hopefully you've already seen the first video, which we produced last year. Your job today and tomorrow, all 2-day project.
Okay, yeah.
Your job today and tomorrow in history is to learn about an important event from the past, okay? And that important event is
Titanic.
The voyage and sinking of the Titanic, okay? And what we want you to do is learn and absorb as much as you can about the Titanic, about sort of the background of it, what happened, all of that stuff. And then we want you to present that information to us in some way. We're going to come back to that at the end.
Yeah.
But what we want to talk about first, because you'll see, as well as the video, I've sent you a link to a really good website, by the way, for loads of stuff. This is National Geographic Kids, okay? And I've sent you a link to its page because it's got a page full of facts about the Titanic. But we appreciate there's a lot of writing, isn't it? An awful lot of writing.
Yeah.
You know, it might be quite tricky to read all of that, especially on the computer. So
Yeah, I think especially you guys probably not used to looking up information on websites.
Yeah.
So no.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not something we've done a huge amount of.
Yeah.
So we just wanted to go through, me and Mr. Fenn here, the facts together from that website, and you can obviously refer, everything we're saying is from the website and you can refer to that. During this video, if you think, oh, that was an interesting fact, you might want to pause it and sort of jot it down.
Yeah.
Whatever works for you. But we're going to share those facts with you, and then once we've finished, we'll tell you what we want you to do next. Okay? So, let's begin, Mr. Fenn. So, I'll start with fact number 1.
Yeah.
Titanic was built by a company called White Star Line. Now, just a quick point here. When we talk about ships, we say she, don't we? We use the pronoun she.
Yeah.
So, she is Titanic, okay? She was a good ship, you might say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Titanic was built by a company called White Star Line. She was completed and ready for the ocean on the 31st of March 1912. After 3 years in construction in Belfast, Northern Ireland, something you guys already know from when we did the capital.
Okay, so I would say, maybe I just shorten that down. I'd say, so the Titanic was built in Belfast.
Yep.
And it took 3 years to build.
Yep. Made by a company called White Star Line.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. Okay.
Okay. And she was no ordinary ship. Titanic was the most impressive and luxurious ship of her time. She was the biggest too, measuring 28 meters wide, 53 meters tall, and 269 meters long. That's about the length of 3 football fields, football pitches,
yeah.
American. Okay, so from that I take
Big.
Titanic. Yeah, because I think
It
that's
was the
key.
world's biggest ship at the
It
time.
was the
The Titanic wasn't any old ship.
yeah.
It was the biggest ship of its time.
It was enormous. Yeah, it was a really famous thing, wasn't it? It was just the most enormous ship,
Yeah.
longer than 3 football pitches, just enormous.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Yeah.
on 10th of April 1912, Titanic set out on her maiden voyage. Your maiden voyage is your first trip, or first big trip, because they sort of tested it a bit. Taking people from Southampton in England, on the south coast, to New York in America. Okay, and also went via France and Ireland. Alright, Mr. Fenn's coming back with a globe.
Just grabbing a globe. So I mean, if you're at home, you might want to look on a map now or a globe if you have one. So from this, in April 1912, that's 109 years ago. What a long time ago. So the ship went from Southampton in England and was aiming was meant to go all the way over to New York, which is there. So going across the Atlantic Ocean.
Fantastic. Okay, let's keep going. So,
Right,
number 4.
okay, next bit.
Yeah.
Right, so number 4, Titanic's full title was RMS Titanic. Any idea, do you know what RMS means?
I do. It
Yeah,
means...
it's right in front of you. Well, it stands for, Mr. Lake, Royal Mail Steamer. Oh,
Yeah.
Royal Mail. That's like the postman
And
and
it
postwoman.
was called that because it carried sacks of letters, packages that were being delivered as well. So 3,500 sacks of letters, as well as all of those people, were on board.
Oh,
the
how
Titanic.
interesting! I didn't know that. I thought it was just for like rich people to go on
No.
a nice trip, but actually, it's taking the post.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, if you keep going down, because in the first video you've watched, a lot of it was about the difference between how rich you were, whether it was first class, second class, third class. So if we skip that, okay, let's go to number 7 then.
Okay, so for 4 days, Titanic made good progress across the Atlantic,
That's an ocean, of course.
powered by 3 coal-burning engines, but it was no easy job to keep her moving. Each day the ship's 175 firemen shoveled 600 tons of coal into the furnaces. That's the weight of 100 elephants. So that means as the Titanic was travelling across the Atlantic Ocean, so they had these people called firemen who had to just shovel coal into the fire. It's a bit different to ships today, or cars and things today, or trains today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Very interesting.
and they did it so much. Like, what did they say? It's the same weight as what? How many?
100 elephants.
100 elephants. That's a lot. Yeah.
That's a lot of coal.
Okay.
I'll just go back up a little
Or
bit.
did I skip one?
Yeah. Titanic was also known as Ship of Dreams, and White Star Line, who built it, claimed it was the safest ship of all time. They said it was unsinkable. Of course, we know how that later panned out. Just before midnight on day 5, in the freezing cold North Atlantic Ocean. Okay, so if you look at thank you, Mr. Fenn, if you look at the Atlantic Ocean, obviously the northern part of it is very close to the poles, okay, where it's very cold. So where they were, the water was freezing. Alright, so just before midnight on day 5 in the freezing cold North Atlantic Ocean, an iceberg, remember we learned about iceberg, didn't we? Loomed out of the darkness, okay? Now, the Titanic was too big for it to quickly change direction, okay? So in the end, it's just scraped along that massive iceberg. You guys know how big icebergs can be. Scraped along, and it caused huge damage to the ship, tearing holes in at least 4 sections of it. And of course, once a ship has got a hole in it, water goes in.
Yeah. Okay. The captain of Titanic, Edward John Smith, and his crew knew that the collision meant disaster. Titanic would sink in just a few hours. Distress signals were sent out to nearby ships, and passengers were ordered to get to the lifeboats fast. So the captain realised there's a hole in the side of the boat, and in a few hours it will sink. So he sent out a message to any other boats for help, and he told everyone to get in the lifeboats, get off the ship because it's going down.
Absolutely. But even that, as we will find out, was not quite so
So
smooth.
there's a picture of everyone trying to get on the
lifeboat.
A lot of people trying to get on what? Just a couple of lifeboats.
So here's the problem. There was one very big problem.
Is there someone at the front just going like that? No. Oh.
So there's one very big problem. The Titanic only carried 20 lifeboats, only enough to hold around half of the people on board. And what's worse is that the first lifeboats, in a bit of a mess up there, were launched half empty. So people were in such a rush to get off that they didn't even fill up the lifeboats. They just went off. And in panic, many people jumped into the ocean to escape. But the ocean is enormous, and the North Atlantic Ocean is freezing cold, so not a good idea. You can't just swim to America.
Well, I went swimming at Felixstowe in the summer on a very hot day, and I was cold
Exactly,
there. So imagine where you're next to an iceberg. It must
Yeah.
have been, how cold
Freezing.
it must have been. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so sorry, we'll quickly skip through
Oh,
this
it even
bit.
says it's
So,
minus 2
minus
degrees.
2 degrees, so you couldn't survive in that for very long at all.
No,
Far too
certainly
cold.
not. That's freezing. Okay. Okay. So I wonder why they didn't have enough So I suppose that's why at the beginning they were saying, because they thought this ship was unsinkable, didn't they?
Yeah.
Maybe that's why they didn't have enough.
I think so. Yeah, they didn't. They needed it.
So we don't need it. Won't sink. Can't be sunk. Okay, so should we look at number 14?
Yep.
The first ship to respond to Titanic's distress signals was called the RMS Carpathia. Carpathia. But despite setting out immediately and travelling at top speed, she didn't arrive until around 3 a.m, over an hour after the Titanic had sunk. So I suppose that's a big problem, because the Atlantic Ocean is in, if you that little, you can't even see it, that little pink blob there's Great Britain. Think how big the Atlantic Ocean is. So yeah, I guess there's no one nearby.
Quickly,
Yeah, it's very.
It takes time. So by the time the rescue ship had got there,
It's too late.
too late. Especially bearing in mind how cold it was, people couldn't survive for long in those freezing temperatures.
Okay.
So on arrival, they did rescue the people that made it onto the lifeboats, and there were around 705 survivors who were transported safely to New York. But tragically, more than 1,500 people lost their lives on the Titanic. So in the days following the wreckage, so the days following the ship sinking, loads of ships headed out to the disaster area in the North Atlantic Ocean, and found some people, but people did think the wreckage was lost forever. Okay, they didn't find what was left of the Titanic for a very, very long time afterwards. So, do you want to go on?
Yeah, well, I've just skimmed ahead. It says it wasn't until 1985 that an oceanographer, so a scientist of the sea, he found they eventually it would have been a few people, but actually no, it says Dr. Robert Ballard and his team, I guess, found the Titanic under the ocean. So that is, how many years later is that? It's quite a lot. So I think in 1912.
Yeah, over 70 years.
Over
later.
70 years later. So they didn't find it for over 70 years. Crikey.
And it gone right to the seabed. Okay, so right to the bottom of the sea, 600 kilometres off the coast of Canada. So since then, there have been loads of expeditions in submarines down to the wreckage of the Titanic, and those expeditions have found loads of really interesting things like jewellery, perfume plates. I think I mentioned this stuff in the other video. Okay, and finally, I mean, lots of movies and films and documentaries have been made about Titanic. People have found it really interesting, and I think it's because it was this huge, impressive ship that they never thought would sink. You know, they thought it was amazing, and it all just went so wrong, didn't it? So wrong. So, those are the facts from the website. Hopefully you found I was talking about those useful, and hopefully you found the other video useful as well. So your job then, over today and tomorrow, is to present as many facts as you can and information about the Titanic in whatever way you want to us, okay? So it could be that you do a poster, okay? A picture of the Titanic with loads of facts on it, all right? It could be a presentation. It's almost like what we do in these videos. It could be you talking about what you've learned about the Titanic. If you're lucky enough to have Microsoft PowerPoint at home, you can use, I know a couple of children in my class have already made PowerPoint presentations. You can make a little presentation at home. That would be really great.
You could make a little information booklet. If you get some paper, you just fold it in half, okay, and then if you just get a glue stick, put some glue there, and you don't have to glue it, and then if you just fold another piece of paper in half, and if you just put that in on the glue, and then you just seal it up, it will stick, and you'll have like a little book. You can make a little booklet, so you could have like your front cover, the Titanic, lovely picture, maybe even have like a contents page, like page 1 is this, page 2 is that, and then just have facts, pictures, lots of pictures, lots of facts about the Titanic.
Brilliant. Okay, so it's up to you how you go about this, but you've got all these facts and information, these videos to help you, the website link we sent you to help you as well. We can't wait to see what you come up with. Got today and tomorrow. Good luck.